Tuesday, June 10th, 4 o'clock. Any agenda additions or deletions? I'm going to add item 5B, non-smoking, no smoking regulations at bus exchanges. All in favor?
Aye.
It's carried. Minutes
Moved.
of the meeting of May 13th. Move, second. All in favor? Thank you. Next committee meeting date, July 15th, 4 o'clock, right here. Be here and be nowhere. Community Safety Bylaws Monthly Activity Report, April 2025. Mr. Corrado?
To the chair, I have nothing further to add, and I'm open to questions.
Moved.
Councillor, whoever just turned their thing on.
I think
No.
it's just a technical thing.
Oh, I've got, no, Andy, Councillor Hobbs, sorry. Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair, well, thanks again for a comprehensive report. Just a couple questions and a comment. Just regarding the figure 1, I just was wondering if there was any impact of repeat offenders on that, or is that a significant issue?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, our estimated number of, let's say, chronic repeat offenders when it comes to unsightly files is roughly around under 5%. So it's not a huge impact, but the breakdown roughly of the top 3 calls are vegetation, issues with general dumping and garbage, and some of the issues of unsightly around homeless encampments. Those are the 3, the top 3 nature of calls when it comes to unsightly premises.
Okay, thanks for that. And just 2 other quick ones through the chair. The Tree Island issue, I just want to compliment staff because I know that's a very complex issue when you're dealing with multi-jurisdictional stakeholders and on the water, and it is a real nuisance. It's time-consuming, it's expensive, it's complex, and I thought that was great that we were able to deal with that one. So maybe briefly you have a couple comments about the complexity of those situations and why they're not that easy to deal with.
I think the report sort of talks about the success that we had in April, and that's really, you know, a great sign of cooperation with members of the provincial government, Ministry of Forest. The operation really sort of planning and patrols kicked off in November of 2024, so it gives you an idea of some considerable amount of time, months, that go into planning these types of monitoring, patrols, operations, jurisdictional issues. The foreshore is really the jurisdiction of the province, but we've had steady cooperation with multiple agencies and internal city departments as well. These cleanup operations are complex. You're talking about issues on the water, and we view it as an opportunity to sort of work out our ability to manage across departments these sort of complex operations. And this is a testament to the joint operations team that we have at the city, which brings together multiple departments and different levels of government to kind of triage and problem solve in an integrated fashion.
Yeah, that's excellent, because I mean, I think sometimes people think, why don't you just tow the boat like we tow a car off the street? And it's just a little bit more complicated than that. And the last one through the chair is just regarding figure 3, CS12. And it's just a comment about the budgets and the enforcement, and they're looking actually pretty good. Both are up, so that's positive. And the year-to-date data, that is. And I'd just like you to maybe think about and comment on the compliance that we're having with regard to parking. And, you know, it's not all about enforcement. If you can get people to voluntarily comply with laws like parking, you might see an uptick in actual revenue without having to do enforcement. So can you just comment on that a bit?
Indeed, it's compliance is a game changer in the way that we're able to deploy our precious resources with a lot of the analytics and software that we now have. When we brought on the license plate recognition software, it's not just the scanners, it's the software in general. It integrates the handhelds from the patrol, from the bylaw enforcement staff and the traffic ones that are out there in the cars when they're out there on the streets, also the LPR scanner. What that enables us to do is to see where the peak times and peak hours and hotspots in and around meters. And what we're able to see is when we need to really have enforcement around our meters, and when we don't, when we can deploy those resources to, for example, school patrols or doing time patrols. So we're noticing that those hotspots are changing, but the software is getting so good now that it's predictive. And we're hoping by next year, we're piloting a new software a platform that's really going to drive those analytics, and we should be able to inform Community Safety Committee on some of the baseline mapping that we've got to look for even more hotspots and efficiencies. So it's a blend of, on top of this, once we generate the analytical data, that we always have our monthly meetings where we bring in qualitative data to see if this actually maps with what our staff is finding on the ground. And they go hand in hand, the quantitative and the qualitative, but it drives innovation every month. And then the more data we have, we can then use that versus the previous year to set goals.
Well, it sounds promising, and it is borne out by the numbers so far year to date. So thank you very much.
Councillor Day?
Yeah, just to follow up on the sailboat situation, I understand that the derelict sailboat has been dealt with. I learned more about jurisdictions this last month than I even realized, that there's like the provincial and then the federal and then the harbor. So depending on where the derelict boat is, it depends on what you can do. So thank you very much for dealing with that situation. I did receive a thank you letter from a citizen, so just wanted you to know. My question was about unsightly premises. I've also heard from some neighbors about a unsightly premises home where the lawn is unkept and all that. But the primary thing they're concerned about is a derelict vehicle. And we all know that you're allowed to have one derelict uninsured vehicle per lot. Well, my question is if that vehicle has sat for an excess of 10 years without any repairs, changes, or anything, it hasn't even been washed, is there an expectation by the city that a vehicle that is uninsured on a property must at least be, maintained at some level? Or are they still allowed to do that even if all the tires are flat?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, I think there would be an expectation if there's an issue of it becoming a fire safety issue, or there's some issue of pollutants or spills or issues like that. As you alluded to earlier, the bylaw in its current form allows for that one vehicle, and I believe the intent behind that is there are people who have that hobby of wanting to work on cars, and I think we've heard some members of our community sort of express their desire to have that ability to work on that one car. But if the situation were to be where it posed some sort of a safety issue or was a pollutant of that type of nature, then I believe we can look at a way of addressing it perhaps through another bylaw or through another provision within the unsightly bylaw itself.
I wonder if it wouldn't be worth making a motion to review that bylaw, because if a vehicle has sat for, like I said, in this particular case, I won't get into details, but over 10 years with nothing done to it, that's not a car that's being worked on. That's just storage. And I wonder if there shouldn't be, like if you take out a permit to build a house, you have to have so much done by the 3rd month and the 6th month and the 12th month. And if you don't, they'll make you tear the whole darn thing down. So I would think that there's got to be some kind of legal provision where if a vehicle isn't at all worked on, isn't at all even washed, then there has to be some expectation that if you're working on it, work on it.
Through the chair to Councillor Day, staff can definitely take that away for consideration and look at the demand that's out there for that cohort of people who are really interested in working on their cars, that one vehicle, and also look at how a variety of other cities deal with some of these issues. Certainly, the vehicle in question you're referring to has not been worked on for some time, and it has sat. So we definitely can look at potentially amending the bylaw to address that issue.
Well, if council can give you better tools to do the job, please let us know. Thank you.
Councillor Heed?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Corrado, this is going to be no surprise what I'm going to talk to you about. It's about commercial truck parking and other equipment on fertile ALR land. And I guess when I look at the figures that you provide here, you've got property use calls for service, and then you've got another figure where you talk about parking violation issuance comparison. Which one do you capture the complaints, and I'll get to what your numbers are, the frequency. Which one do you capture the complaints under?
We, under our parking violation issuance, it would have been a combination of that data will comprise complaints along with ticket issuance as well. I mean, it could have been a case of us responding to a complaint, but it also captures a lot of the preventive work. If you look at paragraph under CS 11, you'll see the calls for service for parking enforcement. And there's the data there. We've seen an increase of 14.4% related to parking enforcement calls. To dig down further into what percentage of those calls are related to commercial trucking, we would have to get back to you on that.
So there is some value in that, given some of the work that's being done trying to identify appropriate parking for our Richmond businesses for their vehicles. So it'd be certainly worth knowing. If I were to ask you just to approximately give me the number of monthly complaints that you get from whoever about commercial vehicles being parked on ALR, could you like round figure that?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, off the top of my head, I couldn't, but I would say that a number of our files, our chronic files, have been generated from commercial trucking issues, and often I would have to disentangle whether the original call came in as maybe a soil bylaw violation or a zoning violation type call, and then upon inspection, we noticed there was a commercial trucking operation. But I would say overall, as a percentage, I'd say it's a very low percentage of the overall base. But I couldn't, off the top of my head, give you an approximation.
So who has jurisdiction over this on enforcement, the ALC or the Richmond bylaws?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, I believe it'd be both. In our case, the Richmond zoning bylaw 8500, it prohibits the use of commercial trucks and vehicles save in the express purpose of being used for a farm operation. And then the ALC would obviously say running a commercial trucking business is not consistent with the use of for agricultural purposes. So there would be a joint inspection, a joint investigation. Typically, city staff are usually the first on scene because we get the complaint coming in from people on the ground, and then we investigate. But definitely, we have the tools within our bylaw right now to address the majority of the issues, and we can issue anything from tickets all the way up to taking court action.
Thank you.
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, through the chair. Thanks for the report. Just question on CS 14. I'm looking at the table 5, property use, parking, and animal protection services, revenue and expenses. So just looking at the revenue we bring in for the offenses minus the expenses of what it takes to be doing these patrols and managing all these things. I'm just looking at the animal protection. So the revenue that is gained from fines regarding animals, is that like off-leash fines and stuff like that? And that's so when the SPCA makes tickets, we get the revenue?
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, yes, and there's also fines that are received for not having a valid license, dog license. Those are the two typical ones that we get. And in addition, in that revenue line is obviously the vast majority of people who are voluntarily comply. I would say that the bulk of our revenue comes through voluntary compliance. So people paying their dues on time and their fees.
Okay, so, all right. Oh, the revenue is the licensing revenue.
Through the chair to Councillor
that was a different
Glanders,
chart.
that's all incorporated in that number, I believe.
Oh, it's all incorporated. Okay. All right. I just noticing the where the patrols were, and I'm just thinking about how if the people that we contract to the SPCA to do the patrols, if they don't get the revenue themselves for when they fine the people, then it might make them less motivated to be proactive. But I don't know if there's any incentives for, like, the more they they do? Is there an incentive?
Through the chair to Councillor Galanders, if you look on CS 13 Table 1, you can see the breakdown of the ticket issuance. So there's 58 there. So that's the number of fines that have been issued for those. In terms of incentive, certainly I think it's in keeping with our broader strategy, which is to do enforcement as a mechanism of backstopping compliance. So obviously we do a combination of proactive and call response. But I mean, we in many, I'd say the majority of circumstances, the vast majority, we achieve compliance through education, warnings, and then we proceed up the spectrum of powers. But the majority of issues we can resolve through sometimes difficult conversations.
Yes, just a follow-up. So I've just noticed a real increase of dog feces and off-leash dogs on the West Dyke Trail. We've mentioned that quite a few times, that it sounds like they're going to Gary Point and they're going to Steveston Park and stuff, but I don't know if they're on the dike as much, the patrols. But it's been a lot. And the dogs are walking really far away from their owners, and there's bikes whizzing by, and it's not safe. And I think if they were more proactive on the West Dyke, and then is the first thing that they do say, you need to leash up here and just do education, or do they give a fine right away, or is it mostly just education and get them to comply?
Through the chair to Councillor Galanders, certainly if they don't recognize the person and there appears to be a willingness to comply, there's a sort of a quick intuitive sense that, and staff does have that discretion, but the biggest predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So if someone has a bit of a history in our system, I think we can proceed to the fine stage.
Great. Thanks for clarifying. Thank you.
Councillor Wolf?
Thank you through the chair, staff. My question's about the Tree Island update. I guess 3 questions about it. First off, how much did it cost and who paid for the removal of the dock structure?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I can come back and provide the detailed breakdown of the cost, and certainly elements of the operation were covered by the city as well as the province.
Okay, thanks. And then my last question then. If this is the north arm of the river, and this is Tree Island, we're talking about the body of water here, I wonder if it can be closed off, because there's another little bay just behind Tree Island. It's kind of at the border of Richmond New West, and there is a big log chained on both sides that block access to that body of water. And I don't know who did that or if that's even allowed. As far as I know, it's never been used for anything in there. So I just don't know if when this encampment is moved out, maybe it could be closed off, if that's something that the city is able to do at a different level.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, certainly any SEPTED measures that can prevent the problem from reoccurring, we're game to explore. As Councillor Day alluded to, there's sort of overlapping jurisdictions within the area, but we've built good partnerships based on that successful operation. So we can float that idea by, and any SEPTED type, so crime prevention through environmental design ideas, to kind of make that space less attractive for this problem to arise in the future.
Great, thanks.
Motion on the floor? Second. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Richmond Fire Rescue?
Start with introductions. Deputy Chief Al McGrath, acting for Fire Chief Jim Wishlev. So I have nothing to add to the report.
Any questions? Councillor Day?
Thank you. Well, I just want to say thank you. Last night, the Richmond Fire Department went over to Gilmore Gardens and helped my 82-year-old friend who had fallen. So we didn't have to call an ambulance, didn't have to spend tax dollars on that, and she was well cared for. And I just want to say thank you to the crew who attended that last night.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the crews.
Councillor Hobbs?
Thanks, and through the chair. Thanks for the report. Lots of information. Just one quick comment. If you could, in the significant events, you have one structure fire on Emerald Place and it's got a reference to the attic, and I couldn't figure that out. So if you could explain that, because that's a bit unusual and probably not the typical kind of structure fire that you deal with. So can you briefly explain what that was about?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, yeah, you're correct. When that came in, I also questioned what it might be. What it turned out to be was the residents thought they had rats in their attic, so they lit incense, and the incense caught on fire, burned the significant damage, and then when they did their investigation, it was actually raccoons in the attic.
Why, yeah, okay, so that is a problem in the attic. So I haven't tried incense, but yeah, okay,
So,
yeah, thank you.
so PSA, if you have rats or raccoons or any other vermin in your attic, do not light incense. Call animal services.
That's correct. I don't even think the incense would get rid of the rats or raccoons.
No, thank you. Councillor Heed?
Sorry. Thank you, Chair. And I gave the deputy a bit of a early warning that I'd be talking about a couple of issues here. And one is the medical calls as we talk about overdose and poisoning incidents here. Our overdose and poisonings were down by 1 compared to the same period last year. So when we talk about opioid overdoses, Deputy, we got 4 outdoor and 2 indoor. Then you've got all other OD poison incidents. It's 19. Generally, what would those be?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, it's kind of a catch group of anything from alcohol to unknown to poison to prescription. It's anything that we can't clearly confirm on the scene would fall into that category.
But you would confirm based on your medical expertise that it's an overdose type situation.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, that's correct, but I've also gone to many calls where I didn't know it was an overdose till after the fact. So sometimes the scene's very evident, you can tell by the scene, but a lot of times we don't even know it's an overdose. We just treat it like a cardiac.
Thanks, Deputy. And then when I look at the locations have been consistent over time. When I look at the heat map that talks about it, and you know, I believe based on that, we're still looking at the area around the hospital. We're still looking at the area around here in Brighouse Park. So, and I know you've got a wealth of knowledge in this area, and the question I'm going to refer to you as, because this is an area where we have a significant amount of homeless, unsheltered people that are living in whatever shelter location they can particularly find. Based on your in excess of what, is it 36 years?
30 plus.
30 plus years. When your firefighters attend to whether it's an unsheltered person that's living in an alcove or it's a drug overdose, what would you say the poly problem, that being included in that, would be a mental health issue or a mental health crisis?
Well, through the chair to Councillor Heed, you referenced my 30 plus years, so I can give a personal answer how I've seen over my career, just like you could with policing. It's evolved. So the first overdose I went into Richmond was probably the most expensive house in Richmond with a very well-to-do middle-aged couple with a heroin overdose. So I've seen overdoses in every part of Richmond with every demographic of Richmond. However, more recent times, not being an expert, I've been led to believe that all addictions are the result of a mental health issue. Not being an expert, that's just what I'm hearing. So that's about all I can say to that.
Your firefighters that are out there, so when they come across a person that's succumbed to something that requires some protective service response, whether it's emergency health services, the ambulance, or the fire, and I've seen you guys over the years and girls, and they administer unbelievable care, both services, to the people. Basically, from a firefighter's point of view, what are their feelings on that? You know, I never get a chance to really, assets. So I know you have a special interest in this. What are their feelings on these people that they're dealing with?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, well, you know, every one overdose is too many. Everybody we go to, regardless of the type of call, has an impact. Like critical incident stress is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. So you're always in an abnormal situation trying to process it, and you do. So, yeah, it does have an impact. However, Richmond Fire was the first department, I believe, in the province to have a critical incident stress management team. Our recruits get mental health training and screening before they even go on the trucks. But it's inevitable that you're gonna be exposed to traumatic events that the normal public doesn't see, and that is gonna have an impact. It impacts everybody differently. It's cumulative. That's my experience.
Well, let's hope we never have to normalize it. Thank you very much.
Councillor Wolf?
Yeah, thanks. Through the chair, my question is just about wildfires and if we have any existing resources that are being deployed to support other areas. And from your experience, have you been deployed, and is that a valuable experience to bring back to when fires could put risk on properties in Richmond?
Yeah, through the chair to Council Wolf, in 2018, we had the bog fire on the D&D lands, and I think I had been in my position 2 weeks, and that was my first fire. So that was the most valuable experience for our department and our city. City Council supported us in that, and we got equipment and training. So today, we're actually in a really good place to fight wildland firefighters. All our staff just finished the training, so we're ready to go thanks to the support we got from Council. Deployment is tricky because our first priority is the city of Richmond. So when you take your equipment and your resources out of the city of Richmond, in the past, we didn't worry about it, but now there's a risk in Richmond. So if you deploy all your resources and something happens in Richmond, I don't think the citizens are going to be too happy that we've spent their money on equipment and it's helping someone else. Although in the ideal world, we'd like to be able to do both.
Great, thanks.
Councillor Glanders? Oh, you gave up, okay. Motion? Second? All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Fire chief briefing, do you have anything to, else you'd like to talk about?
Just, we covered one of them, just with the temperatures rising, wildland is the at front of mind. We're prepared for that, but we also have a heat plan ready to go. That's the main topic. We've switched to a 24-hour shift pattern, so we just switched on May 22nd. So that's kind of regional wide that's happening. So we're on that, and it's only been a few weeks, but feedback's been positive on that so far. And we're in a recruitment process. So we're into the recruitment process and getting excellent candidates, and looking forward to some new recruits in September.
Thank you. Councillor Glanders?
Thank you. Regarding the recruitments, do you do a youth sort of pre-recruitment introduction to this career at all for grade 11s or 12s?
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, not exactly. We do have our community relations team engaged in the schools. So that in itself, taking the fire truck and showing them all the equipment, I think that in itself kind of wets the wheel for some of the students, perhaps thinking maybe they could do that in the future. But some cities do have actual like programs, youth programs. We don't at this time. We have variations of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe the 2947 cadets are coming to visit Hall 3 on Thursday night, so they're all looking forward to that for a tour of the hall and introduction to that. So thank you for the work you guys do.
I'll pass that on to our suppression staff, and yeah, it's a beautiful hall to visit. So.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. RCMP activity report, Chief Superintendent.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, councillors, and staff. I don't have anything to add to the report, but happy to take your questions and comments.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair, a couple quick comments and maybe a question. The first comment, it's in the report. Just want to compliment everybody on the Jimmy Ng dedication just across the street from our annex. You can see the signs there. They're so prominent. You know, I pass it pretty much every day, as we all do, and I just think that your members, the volunteer, the stakeholders, and the developer and the city staff did a really excellent job on that, and it's very meaningful. And I understand that a road is in the works for Tom Agar too, who was murdered in 1980, just across the alley here. On to the report, the attempted kidnapping that is referenced, I think it's page 34. So very serious offense, obviously, very dangerous for people. It also is a bit problematic because it can impact people's belief or trust, you know, in the police, not directly, but if you have people impersonating them, obviously it's a problem. So can you just talk about the steps that have been taken to reassure the public and perhaps educate them a little bit on the rarity of this, but also just what to be on guard for and what to look for?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Hobbs. This was one of those rare occurrences which happened here. And in this particular incident, individual, you know, had some attire and insignia which appeared to be police related. And our team did issue a media advisory to the public that, you know, if anyone approaches members of our citizen pretending to be a police officer, it's always, we always, public should be open to challenge the authority if they have any concerns or the legitimacy of that person is in question. Not only with respect to the police officers, but you know, one of the recent trends that we are seeing, especially here in Richmond, is increase in fraud. And these are frauds that are committed by individuals pretending to be bank employees. And they end up knocking on people's doors and coercing them, manipulating them in obtaining their bank information, their bank card information. So we always encourage the public to question, to ask for identification, to ask for verification, if need be, make some phone calls. So be, you know, completely satisfied in your mind before you interact with someone who pretend to be position authority.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation in some respects, so I appreciate that. And through the chair, the last one I just want to comment on is the traffic fatalities and serious injuries as well. And I don't really expect an answer today, but it might be worthwhile having a little bit of analysis on the causal factors that contribute to those. I mean, there's the typical ones everybody thinks of, but there's a lot of things like distracted driving or speed, but there's a lot of other factors that contribute, like weather, for instance, and lighting, and they're all tragic events. So maybe down the road, it would be interesting to have some analysis to help us understand what the typical causal factors are for fatals and serious injury collisions.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks for the report. I just want to echo the Jimmy Ng and Tom Agar issue. Thanks very much. It was a very dignified affair, and I kind of wish we still had the hockey tournament still going with Bob Baziat running in the Rotary Club to continue the memory, but we do remember him. It's important. I want to compliment the OIC in terms of speeding. I look at our numbers. Speeding still is the #1 thing in Richmond. I do not feel guilty whatsoever about asking for reduction of speed in Richmond, in Steveston, on the Dike, on 3 Road, on Mineral. If the media are here, let's even push it further. Thank you very, very much to the men and women that keep us safe. I think it's important. It's got out of hand. And please report every time you pull. Was it 7 over on the weekend for going 50 Ks over the speed limit? Tell the people you're out there and let them know, and I hope you get them. And so thanks very much.
Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to mention, to both Fire and Rescue and RCMP, I attend the Doors Open. Obviously, I'm going to attend our first responders on it. And the Fire Rescue, they enjoyed it. There was lineups all over the place. And across the street, trying to get across the street, the Doors Open there. The Canine Squad was a real hit. The puppy was just absolutely lovable for everybody. And you also brought out other things, and I thought it was very thorough. So I just say compliments on both sides all around. I think it should be known. I don't know how many people you had, but you would have been had the most attendance of anybody. And the other, and I'm just up there with you, was where I live at number 1 in Williams, the ambulance station there. Had 4 ambulances, 2 supervisors, and they were going all day. When I came back to the hall on Sunday at 10 to 4, we were supposed to have been shut down. They were still there. People were kids and parents and stuff. So kudos all around to our first responders, and a huge, huge thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Heed.
Yes, I know what it's like to have a nice, cute little police dog, not a big, fat horse. Inside joke here, okay? Yeah. Thanks, Chief. I'm going to key on a couple things. I just want to make a comment about the e-scooter safety, because we raised that previously, and I see that you did some enforcement on that. It'd be interesting to hear from others, because I haven't paid too much attention whether it's changed the habits of our people that are utilizing scooters on our streets here, because I was getting the complaints continually, and now I don't seem to get any. So again, thank you very much for that. I want to focus on the mental health issue, because I see there were 272 mental health related incidents in April of 2025 that your officers dealt with. And I believe you're just over year to date about 1045 total. So it still is a concern here. And then you note that you had 48 police apprehensions. And then you make a comment about one caller generating, are you talking about one complainant generating 34 incidents? So someone that is in a mental health crisis that required, whether it was your patrol duty officers or your Fox 40 special mental health car, referring, so one person 34 times? It's got to be as frustrating as hell, because, I've been out there, and the chief has too. When you go out there and you arrest someone under the Mental Health Act, you take them to the hospital, and the average time your officers are in the hospital is 97 minutes before they're admitted into the psych ward, or at least attended to by someone with some psychiatric expertise in this area. And they're let out a short time later. And I can tell you, I think the initial apprehension was 24 hours until you got the 2 doctors signing it, and they're out. What does that say about the system, and how do your officers feel about that?
To the chair, to Councillor Heed, I will break this response in few components. So first, I'll just address the individual that has generated, significant amount of calls for us. There are a group of individuals who generate more than one call a month for us. And in this particular incident, we have one individual, they have generated 34 calls. The sad reality is that there are some members of our society who are suffering from severe mental health illness, which prompts a response from the police. And in many of these circumstances or conditions, some of these individuals are not apprehensible, but those calls are generated and which, triggers a police response. But those, as it shows in this report, there's 48 who were apprehended, who met that criteria that they were either a threat to themselves or a threat to others. Police, under our authority, we apprehend them under Section 28 of Mental Health Act, and we transport them to a medical facility for psychiatric assessment. And at that facility, some of these individuals are let go. That can be within hours, some day or longer. It does get frustrating for the police. It can impact them mentally, emotionally, and it impacts us operationally as well, because the officers are exposed to a certain type of trauma on a regular basis. And I've been out there, I have experienced the same. It does take the police away from their core police duties. What I find is police is often the forefront of a response unit to so many issues that don't fall within our core responsibilities. So, it does impact us in different ways, but we know that we are the ones that we have to respond to these calls.
Thank you. And a similar comment that I had for the deputy fire chief here. And, I love this stat, and I'm going to tell you it again, the drug-related social disorder calls. And the fact that we had 58 of those. So from your interaction with your police officers, the ones that they're responding to, whether it's drug-related or mental health, would you say a significant, or could you tell me the percentage that would have that poly problem of drugs and mental health?
I'm sorry, can you just say the last part?
That had that dual diagnosis out of the ones that your officers are responding to, whether it's mental health or whether it's a drug-related call for service due to social disorder?
Through the chair to Councillor Heath, in our experience, it's usually a combination of those factors.
Mental health and drug
Yes.
addiction. Good. And my last point, and I really like it, and I know Mr. Warzel is sitting here probably taking several notes. I really like the maps that you provide. Would it be onerous to get the, you have theft from auto here, you have residential B&E, commercial B&E. Would it be onerous on your crime analyst to give us maps for Richmond on the location of those drug-related social disorder problems, and secondly, on the mental health calls, the locations?
Through the chair to Councillor Heath, I will definitely discuss that with Mr. Warzel and see what we can do.
Good. I'm hoping it's not an onerous task, because I know your crime analysts, all of them are overworked, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion, sorry, Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. Well, unfortunately, I became a customer this Friday. I wanted to ask you a question, but first I'll just tell you, so my husband did an Interact transfer and we got scammed out of $1,900. Not scammed, frauded. We didn't actually agree to anything. And so when we were dealing with the bank and everybody else, and by the way, the RCMP office was great. They took down all the information. Can you explain the difference between a scam where someone agrees to give money to someone and a fraud where it just disappears?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, there are variations, and there are so many techniques that fraudsters can use. There in the COVID era, COVID time, the people were, asking individuals to give them cash because they didn't want to have any contact with the credit card. So there's a whole bunch of schemes out there. But, you know, whether it is having someone to have them pay money or having someone to provide them with their bank card to state that that card is compromised and that they need to collect the card and take it back to the bank and destroy it. I think anything out there that just doesn't seem right, we just have to be extra cautious.
Yeah, what I learned a lot in the last week, which is if somebody takes money out and puts it back, that's a sign. Don't just ignore it. Go and find out why it went in and came out. Like it's just a test, I've discovered. And then the lovely lady who's helping me at Coast Capital, who happened to be Jamaican, said, oh, this is African. She could tell by the names. She could tell by the way it was handled. So, and how they did it, we still don't know. But of course, every card has been deleted. Every name has been changed. Every passport has been changed. But what a hassle. And when you haven't done anything, like it's very discerning to see something like this happen to reasonably intelligent people most of the time. So
Again, through the chair to Councillor Day, these individuals are very sophisticated. You know, they can flash the money in an envelope, but before they give the envelope to you, it's switched with another envelope that has only cut paper in there.
yeah.
So it's just, we have to be extra cautious, but that's all I can say.
Well, we're not dealing with Interact transfers anymore, I'll tell you that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Second, all in favor? Thank you. Anything for the briefing?
Madam Chair, I didn't have anything on the list, but I just want to quickly comment on the Doors Open Richmond. So obviously with having our police dog there, having our emergency response team, having our Fraser Guardian vessel, community enforcement, community engagement team, recruiting booth. I was there myself. Lots of pictures taken with grandmas and little kids, and it's always a special moment to have our community come out and show that interest. So it was really, well planned, and it was a nice day. And obviously, being next to our friends, RFR, it draws a big crowd. So I'm glad that the public got to enjoy both of our facilities. And I just want to make a quick comment with respect to e-scooters and e-bikes. We continue to do our education information efforts, but we have also implemented enforcement efforts as well. And as you see in this report, there were 2 days of enforcement, people riding on the sidewalks, not wearing helmets, and we will continue to do that every 2 days a month. Now, kudos to our road safety unit. They are very busy, and it's not that big of a unit. And so they covered this big city, doing tremendous amount of good work. And as you read in the news just recently, speeding enforcement, one person was stopped at doing 182 kilometers in an 80 zone. So the unit is working really well because road safety is one of our priorities, and their hard work reflects, on the numbers and the results that we see. So with respect to e-scooter, e-bike, there's a skills challenge coming up here, and again, that draws a lot of people, so we'll teach them about e-scooter, e-bikes, rules, regulations, helmets, and all that. But we'll continue to proceed with 2 days of enforcement a month with these units. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the city of Richmond we have hub cycling go out and work with each of the elementary schools. Did the RCMP coordinate any of the information with that, maybe in terms of the e-scooter and e-bike information that's being delivered by Hub Cycle?
Yes, our community engagement team and our road safety unit, they're also connected with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Item number 5B, no smoking regulations at bus exchanges. Mr. Corrado, you were talking to me the other day on this item. We received an email from somebody requesting if we could make it smoke-free at our bus exchanges at Brighouse and Steveston. And so I spoke with Mr. Corrado, and rather than me give all the information, why don't I let you take it away from here?
To the chair, staff have had conversations with Transit Police and TransLink, and there's definitely a willingness to explore more operations to patrol for smoking at bus shelters. Currently, smoking at bus shelters is prohibited under the Tobacco Vapor Products Control Act. That's BC legislation. It's also prohibited under our public health bylaw as well. Certainly, it's an issue which it does concern Transit Police and TransLink. Definitely something where they have an array of tools at their disposal also to take a look at it, such as CCTV camera in and around those locations, such as Brighouse. It should be noted that we have not received a large call for service volume in regards to the specific issue. So, but we are definitely there for stepping up education, such as the strategic location of signage. And it's a type of issue, I think it requires a combination of education and messaging, communications, as well as enforcement.
Okay, so you're on it?
To the chair, I think a shared responsibility with the province as well.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Galanders?
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for bringing this up. And I also was speaking with Mr. Corrado a few weeks ago on this after we received that email. And you did mention to me then that you were going to check with your colleagues with transportation to see what TransLink's signage policy was in and around bus stops. Did you find anything about that?
Through the chair to Councillor Galanders, specific to the placement of the signs, we're still in conversation. We're working with them on that. In terms of enforcement, we did have a conversation with Transit Police, and we are working together on that issue.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Heed?
Yes, and I don't believe there's anything around just the common bus stop, but I believe there is stuff around, for example, Brighouse Station and all that. And previously they used to have these in, Andy can probably talk a bit of these no smoking zones, and it was clearly identified with markings of no smoking. I'm not sure, I haven't been at Brighouse Station lately, whether it's even there anymore, but the point I want to make here is I believe the attendance and transit security, not necessarily the high-level police officer responding, but do they have jurisdictional authority to tell these people to leave the property?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, it's certainly a question we can pose to Transit Police to see if that, first off, to see if the conversation, prevention, kind of communication aspect has been delegated to the transit attendant, security attendants, and secondly, to see if they've got the capability of issuing tickets. That's definitely a question that we can get back to you on, and I would feel more comfortable if I went just directly to the source and see if they have the authority to do so.
Yeah, I don't believe they have the authority to issue tickets, but I think they certainly, just a confrontation, just, pointing out to the individual, that's probably going to be your most beneficial. Just a comment, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this. I think it's helpful to understand. Thank you. Manager's report?
Through the chair, just one matter to bring to the committee's attention. You may recall there was correspondence from the Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner commencing an investigation of our public safety camera system, and that was good news. We had a time limit to provide our submissions and our evidence, and we are in a position to meet the deadline, which is the end of this week. And I've reviewed those submissions, and I'm very happy with all the work staff has done, and I'm looking forward to a decision regardless of the outcome, it is a decision, and then the next steps will follow from that.
Okay, thank you for the work on this, appreciate it. Okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn? Thanks, we are adjourned.